All right, welcome everyone to our first panel session of the QA Innovation Summit 2025. After an insightful keynote speech from Tariq Khan that sets the stage for the future of QA, we'll now dive deeper into the key themes that are shaping our industry. This panel, this excellent panel this morning, brings together thought leaders, practitioners, and innovators who are at the forefront of transforming quality assurance in the AI era. Today, we'll explore how AI, automation, and emerging technologies are refining testing strategies, accelerating delivery, and ensuring software quality and reliability like never before. Our discussion will cover real-world challenges, evolving skill sets, and the fine balance between AI-driven automation and human intelligence in QA. Before we start, let's introduce our panelists. I'll go first. I'm Greg Sento, AVP of the Enterprise Quality Engineering Platform at Sun Life. Our QE platform team provides QE capabilities to our delivery teams across the Sun Life organization. And we are super keen in exploring AI in the field this year. I'll be your moderator. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian to introduce himself.
Good morning, and my name is Brian Cole. I am the Director of Customer Engineering for Neoload here at Tricentis. As a software vendor, we're keenly aware of and invested in the trends related to AI as it's going to impact the quality assurance space.
Great, thank you, Brian. How about you, Joe?
Well, I'm Joel Rizza, and I work for a major bank here in Canada. And I'm in user acceptance testing, been in testing for 20 plus years. So I'm very excited about AI and the future that it entails.
Great, glad to have you here. Pushpinder.
Thanks, Greg. So my name is Pushpinder Malhotra. I work for Northbridge Insurance, have around 19 years of experience in the industry, very passionate about the latest technologies like service virtualization, API testing, AI, Selenium, automation. And happy to share that, I've had the privilege this year to organize this summit, and happy to have you all here. Thank you.
Yeah, special thank you to Pushpinder for that. A lot of work behind the scenes to bring all of this together. Thank you, Pushpinder. David, over to you.
I think I'm one of the veterans here. It's been like 25 years plus that I've been in this space, in the testing space. And I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist and co-founder of SQA Logic. We're a firm specialized in testing services and implementation of best practices. I'm a speaker at numerous events and happy to be here and exchange with this panel of experts on the subject of what else? AI in 2025 and what we're going to be doing in the testing space.
That's great. Thank you, David. And last but certainly not least, Renato.
Hey, everyone. Hi, it's Renato here from Pearsoft. I actually moved from development to testing in 1999, Y2K. Remember that? Worked for investment banking, then IBM, CA, to name a few. And I've been with Pearsoft for 5 years, where we now have been infusing AI, LLMs, and stuff like that in our solution with every release. So that's an exciting topic for me.
That's great. I'm really happy to be here with this panel. So much experience sitting around this virtual table. Well, with that, let's get started. Joe, we'll kick it off with you with a question about vision. What is your vision for the role of QA in an AI-driven future? How is AI already impacting QA processes in your organization? What trends do you foresee? Kind of an open, get us started on the vision question.
Yeah, definitely. I think you can look at it in a couple of steps. Step one, the early days, which is happening right now. A lot of people are exploring AI. They're getting the hands on the different AI models that are available and the tools. And they're looking at it, they're testing it, and really just using the technology to do what they're currently doing. So I look at testing as an assembly line. And the assembly line hasn't changed, but they're introducing AI and how they do work. So whether it's creating emails, creating test cases, automation scripts, they're using the technology to do what they currently do now in the assembly line. Instead of them doing it, they have the AI creating that material, and then they review it. That's step one, and that's really where we are right now. A lot of people are just exploring it and trying to figure out how to use this efficiently, and so there's some great things going on. But the next step is really the key one, is the transformation step, and I think the panel of experts here is just incredible because they have some amazing insights. But that transformation, where we take the assembly line and now we just chuck it, we toss it out the window and say, we have new technology now. What does that world look like for us in testing? How do we integrate in the overall software development lifecycle? How do we leverage that new technology and reimagine our jobs and our roles in that? And that to me is the real key element of it. I think, being in the industry for so long, even prior to automation and, being the automation and then offshoring and going through all these changes, the changes have taken a little bit of time to take place in that transformation. But I see the AI technology space where step two, where I talk about that transformation, it's not going to be a 5-year journey. It's coming very fast. It's here already. And some organizations are reimagining their development lifecycle with AI technology, especially some of the smaller ones that don't have all the regulations in place. So that is, the speed of change is incredible. And I think over the next 2 years, we're going to see some very major initiatives and capabilities coming down the pipe.
Thank you, Joe. That is a lot to chew on. Would anybody on the panel like to respond?
I mean, I completely agree with the statement Joe made about, if you have an existing deployment tool chain, quality governance process, really analyzing what's coming down the line in terms of new technology and rethinking your approach. Absolutely trying to incorporate new technology into the old delivery process that you might have in place is going to force you into making decisions that are going to limit the ability for you to get value from this new innovation that's coming towards you. And I also agree, it's coming fast, much faster than you think it is.
It's already here.
Yeah.
It's in the room. It's right here.
Yeah.
Brian, I find it interesting. I mean, you're with Tricentis, very a key player in this space and a key provider of the capabilities that so many of us use. How do you see that from your perspective, the keeping up with the speed of change within the kind of the foundation you've already built over the years?
So there's going to be quite a lot of emphasis put on incorporating new AI strategies and deploying them so that you can get to the actual purpose of all of our jobs, which is getting software running in production that works and is scalable and performant and reliable and secure. Well, that's great, and it's easy to lose sight of that end objective. What we're going to find as a transition period is people are going to struggle with a lot of, I guess, false expectations about this technology. Initially, there is this idea, oh, it's AI, it's going to come in and take my job. Let me reassure everybody, not for a couple of years. AI is going to be exceptionally good at dealing with the brute force tasks that we all have to deal with every day, which is things like documenting a test, doing the scripting for an actual tool behind the scenes. All of that kind of work, that's where AI is going to begin to elevate us from that kind of grunt work technical role to a much more executive function where we can focus more on the purpose and practice of quality assurance. And I feel like this is really going to help impact and change what it means to be in QA. And we're going to see the same thing happening in the development space at the same time as well, as they leverage things like Copilot for their own AI usage. They're going to start finding that the writing of the underlying code is going to become elevated, which developers have been doing for years. This is something I often lament. Developers figured out a long time ago that they should reclassify what software development is. So once they build a compiler or a framework or a library or something like the .NET CLR, they stop talking about that as development and redefine what it is. We're going to go through the same process in QA.
Wow, that's an interesting insight, Brian. I appreciate that. You know, and that ties into something I want to ask David. So around skills, because Brian, you're pointing to the way we need to rethink what we do in some fundamental ways. And David, I wanted to ask you, oh, sorry, Renato, on the skills gap, what's new skills do you think QA professionals need to thrive in an AI world? You know, playing off of what Brian has had to say, how can organizations upskill their QA teams to embrace AI effectively? What do we need to look at?
Oh, I think we got to look past the traditional role of a manual tester, for example, right? Where you're following a set of steps, a set of instructions sometimes to do manual testing. That could be a business analyst, that could be a tester. In different organizations, they'll have different names. But these people now, the power that they have once they have access to, let's say, an LLM to go and generate a data set, to generate mass. So now you can easily go for boundary checking. You can go for corner cases. You know, it's so easy, and you can get the data set and plug into pretty much any tool in the market, any framework we're using. I mean, having that mental agility and accepting that, hey, you know, now if you're a test automation engineer, for example, you won't be spending an hour plus checking for locators on the browser or writing code in your framework to get one test case automated in hopefully an hour or two, right? I mean, there's tools where now you can go, you can record, you can quickly get those locators, you can get your automation done. Okay, now does it mean testers won't have to code, test automation engineers? Oh, no, it means they're going to code more advanced stuff. I mean, everyone here knows, usually there is, when you talk about test automation, there's a wall. Different organizations face that wall at different times, where maybe you start with an application and you're like, okay, we have no automation here. Fast forward a year, oh, now we have like 30% of our test cases automated. And then you hit a wall between maintaining the automation you created and creating more automation. And you just don't have the resources to do that. So now with the productivity gains of agentic testing or LLMs or any sort of AI infused in different tools, like we're doing, for example, at Parasoft, putting that on refactoring code for security compliance or things like that, right? Make you more productive. So, okay, where is that wall going to be now? At 60% of your test cases being automated? That's what I see. I mean, and I think it goes a little back about what Joe said, people being concerned that, oh, we're going to lose our jobs. I just think we'll get a lot more done.
Renato, if I lead an SQA organization and I have a fixed training budget and I want to prepare my team for the future, and I mean, it has to be near-term future because it's so hard to know even 18 months from now what things look like. What would I spend that budget on? What should you did talk about mental agility, which I think is a crucial, it's a crucial skill for all of us to have, right? Because things are changing so quickly. But I have a budget. What should I spend it on for my team this year?
I mean, hard skills, it's going to depend a lot on your technical stack, right? What are the tools you have? What are the technologies you work with? But I mean, let's talk about soft skills a little bit, right? We all have played with LLMs, and it's like if you write a poorly worded question, an incomplete request, you're going to get, you know, data that doesn't make sense. You're going to get responses that are not accurate. So the whole, I hate the term prompt engineering, but I guess learning how to write good prompts and learning how to validate that data and parsing through documents, at the same time as being aware about security. I think a lot of many large organizations haven't widely adopted LLMs yet because there's a valid, huge concern about data security. So I think all of those skills will come to play.
To add to that, I think budget-wise, Greg, I think every organization right now should start budgeting for spending on LLMs and exploring and, making sure they have access to those technologies. And if that means budget, then yeah. But with the DeepSeek thing coming, looks like the budget is not going to be constrained for lots of us, right? Because we had seen this last year. We were trying and we were like, we had that budget constraint. Certain teams like AI ML teams had more access to the tokens and everything. And it was not like fairly distributed amongst all, but looks like with the advancements, the cost is reducing, and we're going to be doing, we would be able to do much more with the same cost going forward.
This is a trend that's been going on for some time, and what a lot of the leading voices in deep AI have been saying, a software innovation is going to lead to significant advances. It's no longer a hardware issue. We have the capability to operate these AI models. We've had it since about 2015. It's now figuring out the software side of it. So DeepSeek's an interesting example. They spent $6 million training their model, but I don't know, $1.5 billion on R&D leading up to it. This is going to become more normal. We're going to start to see these types of AI releases in the industry, and we're not even certain what people are going to be able to start doing with them. It's going to be fascinating. In a lot of ways, I feel like we should all be reading science fiction to see, is there some interesting ideas here? Because a lot of stuff that comes out of science fiction authorship is stuff that the engineers of tomorrow are reading and then developing and turning into reality.
So my takeaway, some training on soft skills, some training on security, and everybody needs to read a little bit more sci-fi this year. That's my takeaway. You know, one of the things this conversation is pointing to is risk. And, you know, the discourse in this space seems to be, at the risk of oversimplifying it, real evangelism, real cheerleading, real excitement for what it can do, and then a lot of concern about moving too fast and not understanding what we have, and risks, in general risks. And I want to ask David about one risk particularly, but we'll open up this question to risk in general. On the people side of it, or on the way we work today, David, is there a potential risk of over-reliance of AI in QE, that we stop looking at the work we do critically? Is there a risk there, and can it be mitigated? And in general, what risks do you see in AI coming into our space?
It's a big question with a lot of branches that can go off in, but I think like anything new, there's risk involved in the newness of what's happening, and I don't think we've yet, you know, it's the tip of the iceberg as far as what AI is going to be able to bring us. There's innovations that we're not even capable of thinking of where this is going to go and what it's going to allow us to do. And these large language models are coming up with correlations that are so deep that we don't even know how it came to that correlation sometimes, but it does give a valid answer. And there's some very cool things that are happening inside of that. And you know, clearly there's fear of a lot of people that comes with that. There's excitement, right? We're all excited about what's happening. I think there's fear for our jobs. There's fear for where things are going to go. And there's change. And human beings, as the beasts that we are, have reticence to change, fear around change in a lot of cases, a bit of excitement, but there's also that fear of how it's going to change things. So, you know, I think we're all aware, everybody that's in this room is aware that the train has left the station, that AI is here to stay. We're not putting it back in the box. It's outside of the box, and it's going to continue expanding. And it's about how we use that and what we do with it. I say embrace the change with excitement, but also realize that there's a cool aspect of the jobs that we have in QA, right? The QA practice itself, it's about curiosity, innovation, finding the things that are abnormal, that are outside of the box kind of process, right? We're looking for the odd behaviors and the things that just don't feel right. But you know, that notion of feel right, that's a human element, right? There's a part of this that I think the tester, we can't forget that there's that human aspect of it sometimes, of just making something feel right. It might be a perfect UI, it might look great, it might work fine, but the target audience isn't ideal, and they're not going to get it in a certain way because of their experiences. So I think, you know, we need to understand that there's physical limitations around AI. There's you know, potential model bias. There's things that we need to look at. We're not going to go into the depths of all the different things, and so way testing is going to change specifically in this part of the talk. But you know, the reality is that there is a risk of over-reliance on AI. There's a risk of organizations believing that this is magically going to allow them to eliminate the QA practice and just set up automations around it. I don't see that. I see this kind of like Renato was alluding to. These tools are great. They're going to allow you to do a lot of the mundane work and repetitive tasks and documentation and assistance with finding, the error in my code that I just wrote to test something and I don't really see it. Well, AI is really great at seeing that little typo that you got somewhere that's causing a problem and helping you proactively fix it sometimes and eliminate some of those things. But the underlying fact of how you test and what you do, there's a human nature that I think has to stay. And in fact, freeing up the time allows the testers to do more exploratory testing, focus on the exciting stuff. And what really drove us in here, everybody that's in this room, I'm sure, it's that curiosity that got us into testing. It's that fun aspect of finding something that just shouldn't be there and saying, wait a minute, why is it doing what it's doing, and raising that problem and helping make something better. So yeah, I'd say exciting times, very much so.
And just to add to that, like, from my automation hat, I've been hands-on in automation at some point, right? So from that experience, like, automation is still doing same stuff that humans tell it to do, right? If there are 10 steps I'm telling the script to do, the script is gonna run those 10 steps only. But that human factor is the one that's bringing in more bugs, more exploratory testing, going back and forth, and more UAT, right? So that human intelligence is going to stay, and over reliance on the tools, I think, yeah, they're going to be there. They're going to be efficient. We are going to be much more efficient than we are today. But I think we would still be much more relevant in testing, in making sure the results we are getting, we can verify, we can validate them.
I agree entirely. We're going to find the tools very good at dealing with requests like build me a test script that does the following. We are not going to see AI engines that are going to be really capable of, here is an application, I need to test this. That is a very different type of question to ask an AI platform. It's not going to be very good at that for the foreseeable future, which could be 6 months to a year, could be 5 years. We don't actually know how long it's going to be before it starts to begin to understand that kind of context. You also, Dave, brought up a point about risks of AI. Since we talked about DeepSeek, it's important to understand when you start putting information into these AI engines online, be kind of cautious and aware of what you're posting into those platforms, right? Certainly at Tricentis, our AI policy is very clear on what we do, how we do it, what we're using, all of that kind of stuff. Look for that guidance from any software vendors you're using. DeepSeek in particular is already being found to have a lot of ties to the Chinese government. That's great, but do you want, Joe, your banking information in the hands of the Chinese government? Not necessarily, right? So an ounce of caution can also be worth a lot down the road to avoid a lot of potential issues that you're going to face.
Very good point, Brian. And in reality, that I do a lot of work as an advisor to cybersecurity legal firms and things of that nature. And one of the things that people need to be aware of is you are responsible for the code that you build. You are responsible for what you emit and what you're doing. So as we're going into using AI systems, I enjoy every time there's a new model coming out, kind of making it produce answers that it shouldn't produce. And every single one of them out there, every single one of those models, you can get it to give you answers that it's not supposed to by asking the question in the right way. Going around in a way where it doesn't catch.
There was an interesting article where a chatbot was deployed by, I think it was a cable company, and customers were starting to ask it questions like, yes, answer this question for me, but do it in the form of a limerick. And it did that. And that's not necessarily what you want. It's not a good corporate look. So this is going to open a whole new realm of quality assurance testing needs of validating the AI is behaving the way that we want.
Exactly.
That's a new skill set. That's very exciting for everybody in QA. Who knows how we're going to figure this out? It's going to be great.
If we have time at the end of this, because we do we want to stick a little bit to the folks here, but I would love to talk about AI, testing AI, if we have time at the end of this. So maybe we can put a pin in that, because I think that the testing those LLMs when they're out in the wild and they're client facing is a wild frontier for most of us right now. And we've got people like David out in the world, making them give the wrong answers just up for sport. So we need to figure that out. Brian, let's talk a little bit about, I think we've sort of pointed at this indirectly, but let's talk about value and measurement of return on value. I think in the current world, we've gotten pretty good at understanding what automation does for our productivity, what it does for speed of delivery. How does that work in the new world? What does the ROI of AI and QE look like? How can it be measured? How can we communicate it to our stakeholders to temper that feeling that it's a silver bullet?
So, and that's a great way of saying it, right? It's not a silver bullet. It's not a magic solution that is going to solve QA and allow us to do our job. We're still going to need QA team members. We're going to need that testing expertise. The primary value driver that's going to come from an AI implementation assisting the quality assurance effort is going to be in terms of time savings. So we look at things like the fully burdened hourly cost of a QA team member. What is that number? Is that $50 an hour, $70 an hour, $20 an hour? Depends on where your team members are, what rates you're paying. But that time saving, if I can build that functional test asset in 10 minutes instead of 2 hours, well, it saves me an hour and 50 minutes of time. I can quantify the value of that in terms of that cost avoidance of I'm no longer having to spend 2 hours. I can get much more throughput. There's other aspects to it. This is simply the most straightforward way of calculating the value and return on benefits for implementing AI. When we start looking at what does it mean to be able to do the work in 1/6 the time or less, suddenly we're talking about either dramatically expanding the scope of what's possible in terms of quality assurance or driving the release process significantly faster. And we're going to see a blended approach of those. We're going to get a little bit of both as sort of the first step. This is, pick your own line between those two endpoints for your own business to figure out what's more important. Is it getting something into the market faster with the same level of quality, getting something to the market faster, but not quite as fast, but with a higher level of quality? You're only going to get a set of good choices coming out of this. But the hard dollars, the easiest one to look at is just time savings.
Just time savings. Joe, I want to ask you, you and I and Pushpinder are all in the same industry. And we're probably thinking about some of the same things. What do you think about what Brian said? Where will you see value, or where do you expect to see value as AI joins QE?
Yeah, so I go back to my earlier statement. There's that two vision piece, and first one, I agree with what Brian said. It's about time savings and the efficiency you get and the dollars saved there. But the next one is a little bit, you have to use your imagination and think ahead and say, you're releasing something into production, a new product. And before you invest the dollars to develop it, you can use the quality assurance team with the technology, create working models to say, is this product that you're going to develop and invest millions of dollars into, is it going to have the desired business outcomes? So I'll give you an example, for instance. And I've been testing this out a little bit on a platform called TradingView. And in TradingView, you're able to create test strategy or trading strategies and set up automatic alerts and then do some auto trading. And the key element of it is creating the strategy, and does it have the desired outcome? So your objective is to make money. And with the AI technology, you can create strategies in literally minutes and fine tune them and then test them out with massive amount of data over time to see if it produces the desired result. And so that type of thinking I think is going to influence our space. When we get requirements or just business cases and you're looking at it and you're saying, is this going to make your institution money? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're all about, right? You're looking at a financial return on your investment. Are you going to see that investment? And are you going to see that return? And we can actually start testing that out. So it's not just testing the software, but testing the concepts of the overall business model. I think we're going to be able to do that as well.
That's such an exciting vision of really, I mean, first of all, it sounds like the ultimate shift left play but it's also an exciting vision of really getting SQA or QE closer to client value, business value than the goodness of productivity and speed.
Oh, definitely. And I think David hits this many times in, you know, the different conferences that he attends and speaks to. It's about us now engaging with the C-level team members of the organization. That's where we're going to start seeing a lot of value from us. So I think it's very exciting. You know, the future is just incredible.
I believe it decommoditizes QA. I mean, QA becomes very important because the pace at which things are going to be moving, the speed at which things are happening, the risks associated with some of these things that go with potentially getting the rewards mean that it's very important that these things are taken into account. You were mentioning the whole notion of trading, right? And creating algorithms to be able to trade and so forth. And yes, AI is great at this, right? But the thing is that if you've got everybody building AI algorithms to do trading, and it detects a down spin on something, and then the other algorithm detects the same thing, and everybody starts selling off, you could have a collapse of the whole system pretty fast, right? Because at the speed at which things move, things can happen very fast. So I think AI is very interesting in how it changes. It poses a conundrum, right? It changes the way we need to look at things. And I'm one of those rare individuals right now who's advocating for a C-level seat for QA. I want to see a chief quality officer. I want to see somebody who sits there and understands the importance of quality and looks at quality across the board from an organizational perspective and helps, you know, the other C-level executives determine paths with quality centric to the whole thing.
Oh, love that vision. Before we move to the last question on the list, I just want to give Renato a chance to can speak to that, nod your head, add something else, disagree with someone. What's your perspective?
No, I heard a few great things there. You know, I heard people talking about shifting left, changing the role of QA. And I think that's one thing now we go beyond just, oh, this person is QA, that person is QA, that organization is QA. I mean, everybody in the organization should want to have an application out there that performs, that has quality, that's desirable, users are comfortable using it, right? All of those different aspects, you know. And a lot of gates we have today, you know, we have time savings as a key metric, but we also have like how many issues are passing each gate, you know. And today more than ever we have those more and more those easy ways where like a developer can just go quickly and, hey, is my code good? Can it be improved? Oh, my tool here is telling me it's non-compliant with PCI or CWE 200, whatever. Oh, I don't know how to fix that. Oh, maybe Copilot or JTest or whatever tool maybe it does. Let me see. Oh yeah, here's the fix. And it makes sense, and I'm going to apply it right now. So now when it goes to the next gate over from, let's say, the dev to environment to QA, it goes with more quality, right? And now you can have a business analyst maybe generating the initial automation. We did an event, webinar as well, like early in February. Pushpinder, you were there. I don't know if you recall, there was a guy from LA at the end from a startup who asked a question, and that left a mark on me because, like I said, you know, I'm the only QA guy in a startup here, and I'm doing everything on my own. And he was asking for how can I handle all the workload because we're moving here at neck breaking pace, you know. So I think there's innovation that's going to come from just that crunch, right? And there's innovation that's going to come from, like Joe said, hey, we're in a very regulated industry, banking, insurance, right? For example, how do we assert those norms and regulations without spending a lot of time in it? So it's different innovation from different sources, depending on, like, in the end, it's like, where does it hurt in your day-to-day work? Where does it hurt? And that's where you're going to go and find a fix for that, right? I'm so curious to see all the different solutions that are going to come up over the next 12 months.
I think I want to get a T-shirt that says QE, where does it hurt? I like that. I really like that. Thank you, Renato. That was super insightful. Pushpinder, I want to direct the last question to you in a way of kind of grounding everything we've been talking about. We're talking about opportunity, vision, risk, people. What can you share an example or two of what you're actually doing now with AI and QA testing in your organization?
Sure. So I would say we are, again, with like everybody else, early adopters of the technology. So we had access to, the GPT models. We started using it for exploration of user stories, trying to see what these user stories mean, using the chat feature of it, writing prompts, okay, write test cases for this, and then adding that human aspect to it, making sure they are right, and using them, right? And in my personal experience, I feel that, if you're not really into that project or into that application and you ask it, it does help you to get started. Of course, it does not have the full context as a SME would have, but if you are kind of new in the space, it does help you there. Then we are also using GitHub Copilot to write our scripts more efficiently, and adding that. And again, like when we had our new interns, new team members joining the team, instead of always pinging the peer that what does this mean, they can use Copilot and the chat feature again to understand the framework better, to understand, to write the scripts better. These were kind of our initial use cases that we did. And then recently we also used document intelligence and GPT-4o to extract the contents from the documents. Reading the PDF files, converting the output into JSON, and then comparing it to the XMLs to actually, this was like, in our case, the document testing has been a pain because we generate lots of documents. So we tried to use this for extracting and then comparing against XMLs. And then we are also looking at Parasoft because Parasoft also came up with this latest version where they have integrated with AI to read the Swagger files and auto-generate the test cases. So on the API sides, we're also playing around with that. Those are some of the use cases that we have been doing last year.
Excellent. And what do you think if you could have whatever you wanted in the QE AI space by the end of 2025, what's the one thing you'd love to see in your organization?
I think, again, the adoption, in my organization, I would want that everybody be open and start using it and all of that. Technology-wise, what I'm seeing right now, we are right now in a generative phase, right? Where we can see generation of the test cases, generation of the scripts, but that autonomous testing, the agentic piece of it is what I am personally looking forward to, where it can understand and maintain what we have created so far, right? Because things are changing rapidly, like, in agile world, requirements change, things change. So instead of always writing new test cases or now seeing what do we do with the previous test cases, how do we maintain the previous scripts? If AI can handle that maintenance piece of it, I think that would do the final magic in the QA world.
I love that. Thank you, Pushpinder. We have a couple of minutes left in this portion of the roundtable. So a general final question open to all the panelists, so jump in as you will. What would you say, if you had to identify a key takeaway from this discussion or offer a piece of advice to the QA professionals tuned in today, what would that be? What's your takeaway? What's your key piece of advice to the rest of us?
I would say that as you invest in AI-based solutions, look for the ones that are going to be transparent, the ones that are going to explain, here is the outcome that I've given you, here is my reasoning for why I came to this conclusion. Initially, we're all going to be somewhat skeptical, and rightly so, of the outcomes of AI. Dave talked earlier about the hallucinations that AI systems are capable of generating. You don't want that as part of your corporate strategy. You really want it to be pretty clear about what it's doing and why it's doing it, so that you have a good sense of, yes, makes sense. Yes, this will be good for my business. Yes, it's going to allow us to operate an AI in a safe and effective fashion.
Great. I wrote that down. What else have we got?
I would say be open-minded, start learning, start playing around, experiment, POC. Don't think this is going to go away. This is here. So let's jump on the bus.
Yeah, I would add, AI it's there to augment, it's there to facilitate, it's there to add value, it's there to allow you to do more with less time. It's not there to replace. Okay, like we've seen in our space, in the testing space, we've seen the whole notion of replace come up time and time again. You were Renato, you were mentioning 1999. Well, since 1999, I can say we've heard the notion of, and you'll reduce these testers and you'll do this and you'll do that. We're never doing enough, right? There's always ways to improve quality, and quality is a driver to our experience to our customers, right? The more the experience is positive, the more there's quality built in, the more you have satisfied customers and maintenance. So it's not about replacing, it's about tooling your teams with better things that'll help them be more efficient. And actually, how about this one? Enjoy their jobs a little bit more. Like focus less on the mediocre, focus more on the fun
That's a
stuff,
big one.
right?
Yeah, we don't talk about that very much, and not
I know,
every
but it's a
aspect
big
of-
one, right?
Yeah, but not every aspect of the career is excellent and stimulating.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And I was gonna just build up on what both Pushpinder and Dave just said. It's like, for people who are practitioners, I would say if right now at your work environment for security or whatever reasons you don't have access to an LLM, you don't have those tools, maybe like go on GitHub, download a pet store, get a website, do something and start playing. Identify something that makes your life a little bit miserable, maybe because it's repetitive, it's boring. Go and play. How could I get GPT or whichever model, Apple Intelligence, whichever one you're using, to just help me make this less boring, less repetitive, less miserable, or just get it done faster. Just be part of the solution, right? I think that's a great mindset in terms of like who's going to thrive and who's going to just be maybe waiting for something to happen. And that's a big thing I look when hiring people and talking to people. It's like who's here to be part of the solution, right? And that's a great opportunity.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that is don't let fear drive you in this technology. Don't let it freeze you. Embrace it. It's innovative. You can be creative with it and look at the opportunities. I think down the road, you will see an emerging trend where a lot of stuff is going to be decentralized because of AI. And it's going to create tremendous amount of opportunity. And I think our jobs are going to be super exciting. And I'm just looking forward to it. So, but that's my key advice to a lot of people is don't let fear drive you.
That's tremendous. Most of this isn't technical advice. Play, explore, be creative. Don't let fear drive you. It's not going to take your job away. It's going to make it better. Thank you, everyone. I think we're at time. So if it's okay with the group, I'll wrap it. This was an incredibly insightful discussion. I'm glad I got to moderate it as opposed to participate in it, because when you moderate it, you really have to listen. So I got so much out of our time together this morning. Thank you to the panelists for sharing their expertise and to our audience for engaging with such thought-provoking questions. I think it's clear that as we navigate the evolving QA AI landscape, there's so much potential and fun things that are ahead of us. Well, this is just the beginning. Up next, the beginning to our day. Up next, we'll be diving into agentic AI in testing, where autonomy meets autonomy by Jason Wright. That he'll be leading that session for us. We'll be looking at the question: how can AI agents take QA automation to the next level? What are the risks and opportunities in that space? So again, thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.